Hey everybody, it's Tanner Mulvihill. Hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. You know, every week I stress on this show the importance of asking for the business, and I wouldn't be a very good podcast host if I didn't take the opportunity to do the same. If you would consider leaving me a 5-star review on whatever platform you are listening to this show on, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you know a top real estate agent you think should be on the show, please let me know that as well. I'd love the opportunity to hear from them and tell their story. On this episode, I sat down with Ginger Walker, team lead and CEO of Giveback Team of Coldwell Banker Elite of Stafford. During our conversation, Ginger and I discussed a whole range of topics, including the importance of the 2 C's, cadence and consistency, how she has used video and the thousands of views she has received to become a trusted source for clients moving to her area, a question you should always ask yourself before doing a video, why she has not 1 but 3 coaches, and finally a story about snakes that immediately made me think of the original Indiana Jones. And now, my interview with Ginger Walker on the Virginia is for Realtors podcast. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Virginia's for Realtors, now in our 2nd season. I am pleased to be joined today by Ginger Walker, team lead and CEO of Giveback Team of Coldwell Banker Elite of Stafford. Ginger, how are you today?
I'm fabulous. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Oh, my goodness. It's a busy time for both of us right now. We're slinging deals. I'll be honest, my loan partner's out of town at the moment. I'm kind of wearing both hats. And now I remember why I enjoy delegation sometimes.
You know what? That is the key to success. Definitely having someone you can delegate and work with.
That is for sure. And it is a reminder of how grateful I am for those that are with me and what they do, and allows me to do what I do. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk though. For those that don't know you, let's give a general overview of kind of, how long you've been in the business, and then we'll go into kind of what you were doing before you got into it.
Sure. So I started in real estate in 2008, January 2008. And if anyone remembers what the market was like then, this is easy peasy pumpkin breezy market. Let me just tell you in comparison, because the market was like this.
Yep.
So I started as a solo agent in 2008, ended up partnering with someone who was amazing, but as new and as green as I was. We kind of fumbled through real estate and learning our way, and then had a detour to living overseas for 2 years. So I did a lot of I lived in Italy, in Rome. My husband's job took us over there. So for those 2 years, I did all the back end stuff because I obviously couldn't show property, but I could, set everything up, do the social media stuff and do all the CMAs for listing opportunities and that sort of stuff. Came back, my partner, her husband retired, and they moved away as I moved back, switched brokerages and business plans a little bit. Was a solo agent until 2018. At 2018, I started the team, which I run now, which is Giveback Team.
Outstanding. We're going to go into that quite a bit. 2008, maybe not the very worst time to get into the real estate business, but right around the very worst time to get into the real estate business. So my memories of that time, tell me about yours, it just seemed like you probably showed a lot more properties because buyers could be so much more pickier. Unfortunately, you would find the property they love, and then it turns out it's a short sale. So who knows when that's actually going to close. So the paycheck that, takes a while to get there, it could be 6 to 8 months, doesn't happen because the bank could just be like, no, we're not going to sell it for whatever the price was at that time. And we were really climbing out. I mean, that's what my memories of that time are.
My first deal, I'll never forget. His name was Muzzamil. He was an amazing client. I mean, he truly was. And we were looking for $175,000 max in a place. We ended up finding one a little bit north of Stafford, single family home. And I couldn't believe we found it, but it definitely needed a lot of work. So at that time frame, we were dealing with, I was listing short sales. I was listing foreclosures. As a brand new agent, I was doing that in conjunction with a seasoned agent in my brokerage. Mm-hmm. I wasn't earning anything, like you said, because those short sales were taking forever. And sometimes they didn't close. And most agents now, like in the last 5 years, nobody knows what a short sale is. Like the agents that are more recent to the market. So I will say, I do remember it was tough because when I would take over listings that were going into foreclosure, people were upset, with what was happening to them. Copper pipes were being stolen, lighting fixtures were missing, washer dryers would miraculously be gone the next day after I was there, windows broken, that sort of stuff. And I even had a house where they poured concrete into the toilets. So it went through the piping in the house. That's what I truly remember of 2008 when I first started. And I think for us, we started climbing out a little bit, maybe within the 2 years after that. But remember, I was brand new then. So I didn't have the established clients that I was working with that a lot of agents did to get through that piece where you were already experienced and the lending piece of the puzzle. I was brand new. So for me, my experience was probably a little bit different because I was trying to learn.
It's funny though, that the market shifts. Everybody's learning at the same time because there wasn't like you could point to, oh yeah, I remember when, 1994 happened and it was very similar to this. No, that was like an isolated incident of the real estate of our country. One thing I was going to ask you, so I have listeners all over the state of Virginia and actually people outside the state too. So let's give them an idea of kind of your sphere of like where your territories are.
Yeah. So I always joke whenever I'm talking on a Zoom call, I always say if my computer goes like this, it's because I sit right near the Marine Corps base. So things tend to shake, rattle, and boom. But I sit right in Stafford, Virginia. So my team and we cover Stafford and Fredericksburg is where we live, work, and play. But because I've been doing this for a while, I've worked with so many military as well as FBI agents that were wanting to live in the Alexandria area because they thought it would be fun to be closer to the city. My learning experience wasn't just here, it was also going north. So we do cover Northern Virginia, and we do have a second office that's a little bit north and west of here, which is in Gainesville, Virginia, not Florida. So we do have agents that cover, we have a couple of agents on the team, so we do cover the Northern Virginia area as well. So we go Spotsylvania pretty much all the way north, but we live, work, and play really in Stafford, Fredericksburg.
Yep, makes sense. For the agents that are listening, what's like an average single family sales price right now?
So we're around 500,000, more or less. I would say that the sweet spot of where we're really now is probably a little bit more closer to 550. But our average, like when we look at FAR, which is our Realtor Association, it's actually less than that. So, but what we're selling as a team is probably closer to that 550 mark as our average.
Gotcha. Okay. So you got in the business in 2008. What was the catalyst to get in? What were you doing before you got into this?
All the cool kids were doing it.
Oh,
no, but it was funny. I'll give you a little history. I'm a Jersey girl at heart. I was born in Long Island. Okay. Grew up in Princeton, New Jersey. After college, moved to Hoboken and worked in New York City in big pharma. So I was in pharmaceutical sales for a long time. Met the man of my dreams who brought me to Quantico, but I had always been in pharmaceuticals. So that's what I had been doing. And I wore multiple hats there. I was in training. I launched a drug to market. So I was in the marketing department, got to see that. I think that's why I love this job so much, because I get to market the homes and market the team and myself. So I was able to wear multiple hats there. And I reached a point where I ran an entire region. I ran the whole East Coast for a big pharmaceutical company. My husband moved us, and 90 to 95% of my job was travel. My main office was in Manhattan and my other office was in Paris. Wow. I know it sounds tough, right?
Right.
But that being said, after we moved here, I always wanted to be a mom. And we decided that once I was a mom, I wasn't going to do that job anymore because I really wanted to be able to focus on our children, which is what I did. So that being said, I love people and I love little people. I really wanted that interaction of talking to people, Right. And honestly, two of my friends became real estate agents. They were having fun and they were partners together. And I was like, wow, it kind of blends everything I like to do. I like talking about houses. I love decorating my house here. I love architecture. I love talking to people and helping people. Okay, let me go get my license. So kind of the agent that did everything backwards, not necessarily for the wrong reasons, but I wasn't doing everything the right way. So I fell into it. And then I wasn't the agent that tracked my sales. I did have a CRM. I know we'll probably talk about CRMs at some point, but I did have a CRM. I did have a way to communicate with my clients and I did have some level of organization, but I wasn't taking it quite as seriously as I probably could have to exponentially push my sales even further.
Right.
I was doing it because I was a mom. I wanted to be out talking to people. I earned a little extra money. And then I realized I was pretty good at it. and I was winning awards. I didn't even go to the awards banquets because I wasn't tracking my sales.
Okay. You're like, what did I get? What?
Yeah, I didn't know. But then I realized, hey, I guess I'm really good at this and I love doing it. And that's when I kind of put a lot more systems and processes in place to make it a true business, as opposed to something fun. So long-winded answer to your question of how I got into it was completely by accident.
When you look back at kind of the pharmaceutical career, what are some of the things that you did that are so similar to what we do now from a sales perspective, or maybe something that you brought in that you're like, yeah, not everybody does this because this is what I do for my past?
So for me, pharmaceuticals taught me several things. I always loved talking to people, but it was how do you learn to promote a product, whatever that is? And there is a certain cycle of selling. And I always say, when I was in training, I would say match and mirror the person across from you. It's not about you, it's about them. Okay. So my style is like, I hug everyone. I'm actually Italian. I like kissing people on the cheek. We had to be careful with doing, that much contact as of the last few years. But I'm a very warm and fuzzy person, but not everybody looks at it that way. And this is a huge financial decision. Some people are very analytical. So I try and match and marry the person that I'm dealing with so that they're comfortable in the process of whatever it is that I was trying to help them with. So I learned that in pharmaceuticals. I dealt with doctors and surgeons and, so some people were warm and fuzzy like my personality tends to be, and some people were analytical. So I would say that was one key thing that I took with me into life in general, but definitely into selling real estate. And then the piece of the puzzle when I was a regional sales director was the tracking and measuring. That actually is super important. Even though I didn't do it at the beginning, I realized the value of what I learned and to bring that into this. And then the third piece would be the marketing side of things. I had focus groups and things like that. And as real estate agents, we don't really do that, but you still can test on social media. You can throw a video up, with this sound and these captions. And then 3 weeks later, you can send the same video out and test it a little bit differently and see how it reacts. And then kind of double down on working, on platforms like that. So that's really the three key things I think I would probably say I took away from the pharmaceutical experience.
And those are super beneficial because again, when you're going into a doctor's office, whoever you're meeting, you have to do a disc profile in 15 seconds. Yeah. Wouldn't it be helpful if you could get a disc profile in your buyer or seller before you walked in the door so you knew what you were walking into? But that's really what kind of caught my attention is just that ability to relate quickly, find out who they are, what they're about, and then make the adjustments from there. So very cool. All right. Well, when we come back, I want to hear about kind of that first and second year in the business and how it just started taking off. So be right back with Ginger Walker. Are you a realtor in the Fredericksburg area looking for a photographer you can depend on? Look no further than Jason Buttram Photography. Winner of the Freelance Star's Best of the Berg Award 4 years in a row, Jason is the real estate photographer of choice for many of the area's top agents, including several who have been featured right here on this podcast. Whether you are looking for standard photography, drone shots, 3D tours, floor plans, or even twilight photos, Jason and his team will bring out the beauty and character of your listing and have it back to you the next day. Booking an appointment is easy. Simply visit jasonbuttram.com. That's spelled Jason Buttram, Buttram.com, or call or text him at 540-210-5518. Again, 540-210-5518. Make sure you tell him Tanner sent you. And now back to the show. Well, welcome back, everyone. So, Ginger, let's talk about that second year in the business for you. And as a team leader, I'd really like to hear kind of how you relate it to the people that are coming on board for you now. Maybe use yourself as an example a lot of times in your conversations with them, like, do this differently. I didn't, it took me longer, stuff like that. So how'd your first couple of years go, coming off the worst time in the history of real estate?
Well, I look at it as a blessing in disguise for when I started, because people did give me a little bit more time when I had questions, which was helpful. And I did learn a side of the business that we were talking about earlier that most people don't know, which was the short sales and the foreclosures. Right. So, I'm grateful we haven't had a time where it's been like that again. Relearn. Right. Yeah. But that being said, my husband probably summed up my first 2 years of real estate perfectly by calling it the unjob. I had what was called the unjob. Okay. Being a realtor is expensive. Yes. We have a lot of fees. that we have to pay and association dues and things like that. And people don't really think about it when they see like, a $1 million whatever show that they earn $1 gazillion and that's the check. That doesn't go to us, right? That doesn't all come to the agent. And you have expenses like gasoline, and sometimes you're working with a client, like you said about the bank not approving a short sale. Well, sometimes the client doesn't buy a house and you've been working with them for, 2 months, showing them
months. And
and that's your time, and your time is valuable, right? And it's worth something also. So the joke was that the first 2 years of my career in real estate was the unjob because it was actually costing me money to go to work. So that's why I say, like, everything I did, I don't want people to make the same mistakes I have. And that's why I love mentoring new agents. I like helping people who aren't sure what to do next or which step they might want to take. And I mentor several agents across the country because learning what I learned and the ways that I did things and how I could have been so much more efficient in how things could have been done and how I could have sped up my progress. So for new agents that join my team, and I have someone on our team that's been with us just about 2 years now, and I have someone new that's going to be joining us. The first thing I would say to anybody, there is a huge value, in my opinion, in doing one of two things. And sometimes they're both the same. One is getting a mentor, and two is joining a team. And sometimes your mentor is the team.
Right.
So, I do run a team and I am a mentor. And I would say that having someone that you can shadow, that you can learn from, and getting leads is a plus when you're first starting, because that is hard to start your business. And that's why my unjob was an unjob at the beginning. I had a mentor, but they weren't giving me any leads or opportunities, really. They were just saying, here, go do this or try that. And it was helpful, but it wasn't as much as I probably needed at the beginning.
And I feel like you probably didn't have the blueprint. I know I didn't have the blueprint in the beginning. And when the role of the mentor or team leader is, we do X, we get Y results. Right. We may tweak it, but these are the basics. They've been the basics a long time in real estate. So these are what we need to do. And then we expand off of there. So for the new team member that's coming on board, what are you telling them? Like, how are we getting out of the gate and going to be successful?
So I look at everything as a math problem. It's a math problem. And the reason why I say that is, how many leads do you have coming in? How many contacts are you making? How many calls or conversations are you having? Because that's going to lead to the results. So it's a math problem. Or you could look at it as, how much money are you spending on buying leads? How much time are you spending on cultivating a relationship? It's truly just a math problem. How much time are you putting into the business to get the result out of the business that you're looking for? And then it's the pillars of where the business is coming from. So it's how to figure out which is the best pillar for you to start with. So for us, sitting right here near Quantico, I do have on my team 2 wives that are Coast Guard wives. I have someone that's joining the team that's a Marine Corps spouse. My husband happens to be FBI. So, we have different avenues from our spouse's perspective where we can possibly help that category of people, right? We can serve them because we have the connection there. So how do you do that? And that's truly the place that most people tend to start, is your sphere of influence. That's what everyone says. Right. What's your sphere? Start with the people that know, like, and trust you. Start there, get used to the conversations. But where else can you get that business from? And it's usually, where are you most comfortable? And that's really where I start with anyone new on the team is, do you go to the gym? Okay, let's talk about the gym then. What can we do to help you help people that you're working out with? Or if you're going to a kids' sports event, like my children were swimmers. They swam for many years competitively. And right now I have a listing because of my swim family. And I just closed a listing because of my swim family. So it's truly trying to figure out what's the easiest and most comfortable path for you to make those connections. So that way you can, get to possibly closings and clients.
We can figure out our list. Like, all right, Tanner, you sit down with me and you're like, here's your list. We both agree this is what you're going to do. Bye. Right. And then you walk out the door and I don't talk to you again. And maybe you call me 3 months later. You're like, how's your list going? I'm like, well, it turns out I hadn't actually worked on it, but I did call 2 people. And you're like, well, it's going to be tough to sell some houses if you're only calling 2 people. Whereas, Tanner, I'll see you next Monday. And we're going to go over the 15 people that you contacted, or 20 or 30. And we're going to see what was your results. And then we're going to tweak it a little bit. And then we're going to go after these people. that's
Right.
where the role of the mentor or leader comes into play.
It's 2 C's, cadence and consistency. What is your cadence? And the consistency, what is the built-in consistency of the cadence that you're going to do? For example, if you're farming an area, are you making phone calls? Are you door knocking? Are you sending emails? Are you handwriting a note? So that's the types of things that I'm setting up with my agents, is the cadence of what you're going to do. So the cadence of the emails, and what's the level of consistency? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it, every other week you're going to do this? And so that is truly the value. You can have the list. Then what do you do with it? Right. So again, it goes back to being a math problem. How many times and how many touches do I need to do with these people? The value of a team too is not only the mentorship, but if you come on my team, we do have lead flow, and that helps a new agent get their business going, because not everybody that is living in your area, right? So that might be a referral to another agent, which is a source of income for agents, right? We can refer business out to another agent that's local to that area, but you want to establish your business where you live, work, and play, right? And so to do that, sometimes you need the assistance of also lead flow. And so joining a team, typically that is something that you also might have. And with my team, that is something that my agents get. So I also look at how much personal business are you doing versus how much of the team business. And as you're starting, and this is just my opinion, as you're starting, you're probably going to do a lot more of the team business as opposed to your personal business, right? But these people might be referring you. They might not need you right now, but they know you and they like you and they trust you. So they might, spidering out and referring you. But so eventually, as you grow in your business, this happens and even this happens. And that's really the way that being on a team and the mentorship that you get is what my goal is for every agent on my team.
It makes sense. We're going to start figuring out where do you work and play? So that's going to be our target audience, I guess I would say. What are some of the other things that when you look back on it for your first couple of years that you were advising, don't do that? What I did, we're focusing on these areas.
So it was make sure that you have the consistency piece, because I was consistently inconsistent on everything I did. I didn't know better. I just didn't. Right. I didn't have a plan. I just kind of did. And once I realized, hey, I'm good at this, people trust me because I actually do know what I'm doing. How do I make that more consistent? How do I create more of this? So one of the things that we did start doing, or I started doing, was client appreciation events and loving on the people who loved me, love back. And so there were certain things that I did put in place like that. The client appreciation events catapult my business even further. And then also doing the community piece, which is why we're called Give Back Team. And I was nicknamed Give Back Girl. That's kind of the progression of how it happened. But being in the community and involving the community who got to know me. And that was something that was a pillar of business that I didn't even expect to happen. But then, how do I continue to cultivate that as well?
It's a great point. Now, one of the things I always like to ask people, when you look back on your first couple of years, one of the things that caught my attention about what you said is you almost had a version of COVID 10 years ago.
Yep.
So you had to get comfortable with the email communication. I don't know if you were using video at that point to set things up, but it very much was like, I'm not here, so I have to figure out how I'm going to still be able to do portions of this job, even though I'm away. And if you hadn't had that experience, you really probably just rolled into COVID just fine.
I do think that helped set us up. I will say it was a little bit of a baptism by fire, though, because we also had clients that weren't here. So just because of our geography and having, military clients that were overseas. Like I had a lot of people who were in Okinawa. I had someone that was in Sicily, which was amazing because I could actually speak Italian with them, which is pretty cool.
And very nice.
We have people like all over the world. And so we already were kind of a little bit poised for me, even going overseas, even before I went overseas. So my partner was a Marine wife. She was a Marine spouse. We did have some of her clients that were not here. And I dealt with some of the FBI agents that weren't physically here. They might have been in another state, but this was already our best friend, FaceTime. Yeah. So, we started doing things probably a little bit ahead of what everyone else was doing. Yeah, just because of the nature of our business. And that's why even AI right now, which I know a lot of agents are scared of, don't be scared of it. You have to embrace it. You might not love it, but it's here. And so that's why I say don't put your head in the sand when something new is coming. Learn it, embrace it, because it's going to be a part of your world, whether you like it or not. And so for us, that's what ended up happening. So we were poised for me going overseas. And I did more of the TC stuff too, which was not my jam, but I did make the phone calls, which I was able to do.
And you got the experience of it. I was telling you kind of offline, I've had to fall back into both hats that my loan partner normally fills because she's out of town at the moment for a couple more days. Please hurry back. And she comes back, then I can turn that back over to her. But it's like riding a bike that you don't want to ride, unfortunately, but I do remember how to do it. So, all right. One of the questions I always love to ask is, can you think of a bold move that you made that got you business that, you know, if I had not done this, I would not have gotten this deal or multi deals or whatever it was, that you took a chance and it worked out?
So I'm going to say something, and it's actually, I have this article. I keep this on my desk. This newspaper is from February 2009. And this wasn't on purpose. So it was a bold move that I took that I didn't even realize I was taking until afterwards. It was partnering in the community. So what I wanted to do was, I love helping women succeed in their life. That's a passion of mine. Even in pharmaceuticals, I was mentoring several women. And I thought, you know what? I like selling real estate. I've only been doing it about a year at that point. And I thought, how can I help the community and help women in my community succeed? And so I had gone to a women's shelter in downtown Fredericksburg. At the time, it was called Hope House. It's now called Luann's Hope House. And I asked them, how can we help? And so they said every week they have to go to a meeting and learn something that's part of helping them grow. And the month of September was the month where they learned how to, you know, fill out a rental application or credit or things like that. And the thing that really helped me catapult my business and the bold move that I took was helping. And because of that, this is the front page of that newspaper. And I keep this on my desk. Wow. This goes everywhere I go. And it's literally right there. And I keep this as a memory from February 1st, 2009. That's how it's yellow and old. But we were able to help the first woman ever purchase a home from leaving the shelter. And it was probably the most proud I've ever been in my entire life and my career to hand the keys to this woman because of what she was able to accomplish when she thought she couldn't. Yeah. And so because of that, that's what made me want to do more and more and more. I mean, there's other reasons too why I did a lot of things that I did, but from a giving back perspective, that was probably my boldest move. And I didn't even realize it at the time, but that's what pushed me into doing more partnering with my community, not because I wanted the business, but because I wanted to help. And because I wanted to help, the business actually came. And
for those listening, the article is entitled Homeless to Homeowner, and you had helped with that. So that has to just be an amazing feeling because who knows where her life has taken her now because of your efforts.
I've kept in touch with her.
Very nice. So you do.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Very cool. So when we come back, I want to talk about the rise of the Give Back team, your very first video that you did, and go into it. So those of you that don't know, you're going to want to stay tuned. Right back. Hey everybody, it's Tanner Mulvihill with Bayfield Home Loans. Well, 2023 is here, and if you haven't done so yet, it's time to take a good long look in the mirror and ask yourself an honest question. Is your loan officer helping you succeed? For example, are they bringing you new marketing ideas? Do they actively try to generate referrals from the clients you send to them? Or even better, are they sending you business? My philosophy is business should be a two-way street, and I do my best to make it that way. If that sounds like something you're interested in, please give me a call or shoot me a text to 540-850-6267. Let's get together for coffee. Once again, that number is 540-850-6267. Talk to you soon. Well, welcome back, everyone. So, Ginger, let's go ahead and talk about how you started, why you started. Do you remember your first real estate videos? And just for people listening, I'm looking at one video, Pros and Cons of Living in Fredericksburg, 12,000 views. Explore local eateries in Fredericksburg with Ginger Walker, 10,000 views, right? So you've had a lot of people view the videos, and there's 100 plus easily. So let's talk about the video route. How did you get started? Tell me about it.
I'm so old, I don't remember. No, I'm kidding. But the first thing I really started doing was going live on Facebook. I figured it was one of those things where if you go live, you got to talk. There's no take two. So I started going live. I mean, I remember going live in front of a house. The wind was blowing, my hair's sticking in my lip gloss, my hair's like upside down, you know, and I just kept going with it. And I was like, listen, you know what? Nobody's probably going to watch this video anyway. So it's practice for me. But if you're intimidated about doing a video, you know what? Do a video for yourself. Like just just put the camera up, record, talk to the camera like you're talking to a client. Give them the information that a client's asking. One key thing that I would say too is if you're afraid of doing video, you know a lot more than you think you do. So do the video of a home tour that you've got listed. And that's really, like I said, that's where I started I can remember the house where I was too, but things go wrong in lives. It's okay. People will watch it or they won't. It's okay. Keep making videos because the more that you make, the more comfortable you become.
And you're hitting your 2 C's, right? Consistency and cadence. And because you can't do one video and then do 2 a month from now, and then don't do them for 4 months and then expect to see results. That's not how it's going to work.
Don't watch the follower count. Don't watch the views. It doesn't matter. I will just say this, like, if you look at some of my social media platforms, TikTok, I don't have a ton of followers. Instagram, I do. YouTube, I don't have a ton of followers, but I have a lot of people who watch the videos. Mm-hmm. Your goal isn't to count the viewers or count the followers. It's to get the client to call you. Do what you think is best to get them the information that they'll be looking for. That's why I did the pros and cons videos, and that's why they did so well.
Just a great idea because, if you're moving to a new area, you don't know it and you want to find out more about it. Tell me about the evolution of it. So you start with the lives, and then when do you start transitioning over to like YouTube and the different videos that I'm seeing here with all the view counts?
So Facebook was my first, that was where I was comfortable. That's like kind of my age demographic, I would say, and going live. And so I figured, okay, if I could go live and not totally mess that up, like how easy should it be for me to point and shoot a video that I can edit, right? I mean, nobody's seen me go live on Reels or the YouTube Shorts or even the YouTube longer form. So I did start on Instagram. Instagram was kind of a place where I would start playing. And I will tell you that during COVID, I planned on starting on TikTok, and it was my kids that told me, Mom, you're too old. You're too old for TikTok. You're never too old for anything. Just do it. If that's where your clients are, just do it.
You're all grounded and you're wrong. So anyway.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No dinner for you. Make your own food.
That's right. That's right.
No, but I mean, I wish I had listened to my inner voice and I said, I need to be on TikTok, and I waited. So, I probably waited a little too long to get the traction on it. But for Instagram, that's kind of my favorite place. I love Instagram, and I do a lot of reels. And so for me, my cadence is I try and do a reel a day. I try and post Monday through Friday, a reel a day. I didn't post one yesterday, but I did post one today. But that's my goal. And the way that I do it with consistency is I batch shoot my content. So I'm on the radio. Once a month, I have a radio show that I do at local here out of Fredericksburg called Ask the Realtor. We video that. We have 2 cameras going. I have a videographer that comes with me. Right after that, I come to my office. I have a whole setup in another room with lighting and everything else, and I just answer questions. So if I didn't answer the question on the radio, I come with those questions that we weren't able to get to from the live show, and I'll answer those questions. I keep notes in my phone. So if I get asked a question from a client or a possible client, I'm probably thinking that someone else has got the same question too. So that's the question. I write it in my notes. And then when I have the videographer with me, I answer the question. You don't need a videographer. All you need is this. Put it in a window because that's your best lighting, or buy a box light. I have a light here or a ring light, but I literally started with putting my phone in the window so light was on my face, and I would just start answering questions.
Okay. I hadn't thought of that idea, and I really wanted to ask you about that. So you don't need the videographer because, again, if you're a new agent, you have more time than money. Mm-hmm. And then as you become experienced and successful, you have, more money than time. And that's where their role comes in, the videographer. When did that transition happen for you? What was the point where you're like, I need somebody on this?
So for the shorts and everything, I would say that I probably hired the videographer just before COVID, like I think the year going into COVID. Okay. I had a videographer that I had on payroll. He shot for us the home tours, the photos, the drone, and then anything that was a short or a long form content even. So we did do a couple of like the YouTube video when you first go on my channel, that first video that runs, he shot that. Okay. Kind of did a hodgepodge of things. And then as COVID happened, I realized the value of the short form video a little bit more. And so I I would send him clips of things, or he would have had like, it's called B-roll, when you have like me talking over something that you're seeing, but it's not me. So we had B-roll. So we would be able to put video out based on B-roll and me speaking. So I would say that at the beginning, it was kind of more the home tour stuff, but I said, let's start doing some short form video. And that's really kind of how it started. And then it evolved into the radio show and 2 cameras and, more professional lighting. And I've got, like I said, a little studio set up here in my office that I work from, but sometimes I go out on location and shoot out there. And the YouTube videos that you referenced, I did that with literally a laptop in front of me, my script taped to it. Like I printed it out like big print so I could read it from afar. I didn't have a teleprompter. I did a script in advance, kind of like a straw man. I stood with a green screen pop-up behind me and I sent it to an editor that wasn't even here. And I had someone who was coaching me on the other side if like I was saying something and it wasn't fast enough or right or, but you don't even need that as long as you have kind of the template of what you want to say. And I just sent it off. And there's this thing called Fiverr, which you can find video editors for relatively reasonable prices, test them out, send them the green screen video and let them work on it. And that would be a great option for someone who's trying to save some money that can't afford having a videographer with them and do the green screen. And that's what most of those videos are. So those didn't cost me a lot of money.
Wow.
At all.
It's funny about Fiverr because this podcast is produced by someone who I've joined with on Fiverr. It's funny, Kyle's listening and basically he had no reviews yet at the time and just kind of looked at his profile and stuff. And I was like, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. It could fall on its face. Are you interested? And he's like, yeah, cool. We'll figure it out. And then, here we are 60 plus episodes later. So it's
that's awesome.
good. Yeah. Now let's talk about what I'd like to know about is, okay, when did you start seeing the traction from it? So when was it when you got like that first client that's like, yeah, I watched your videos and you're just like, wait a minute, what? How did that go?
It was really weird. I got to tell you. When someone calls you and says like they saw your video, right? They're watching you. And I've had this happen more and more and more. So the more videos I'm putting out and with the consistency, right? And the cadence of where I've said, okay, on this platform, I'm going to put it every day. Like I just had an open house not that long ago and I had 7 different groups of people say, we've watched all your videos. And I'm thinking, okay. Well, first of all, why didn't you call me? Right. So that I'm also learning, but some of them came to the open house without an agent. So they became my client and they already knew me. They already knew, like, and trusted me, even though I'd never met them. Yeah. So I think as we came out of COVID, because I was posting videos even through COVID and people were online a lot more, people started recognizing me as a result of that. And on Instagram, like last week, I just closed the team's biggest deal so far for this year as a result of being on Instagram. They DM'd me. And the next thing I knew, we were in a texting relationship in the DMs and they were coming from Jersey, military family. And she has an online business. I have an online business, in some ways too. And that's how she found me. So I will say the more you do it, the more people will find you as a result of it. And we have closed several YouTube leads as a result of being consistent with those videos. So we've gotten leads from YouTube. We've gotten leads from Facebook, from the ads, not boosting leads, but just because we're putting video up there, Instagram and TikTok. I've gotten a lead from TikTok and I don't even have a ton of followers on TikTok. But that really kind of evolved like post-COVID, like once we started being out in the public and meeting with the public a little bit more. And then it's snowballing. It's continuing to become more and more, which is really cool and a little strange when people recognize who you are. I had that happen at a taco festival down in Fredericksburg. He came up to me, he goes, "Hi, I'm Trevor." And I was like, "Hi, Trevor." And I'm thinking, we had a client named Trevor. It wasn't someone I helped. It was Melissa on my team. Right. But it wasn't him. It was the buyer of my listing. And he had watched all my videos afterwards.
One thing I was thinking about on the videos that is genius too, is pretty much every one of your videos can be update video, right? So it's like top 1, pros and cons of living in Fredericksburg, VA, answering your Northern Virginia questions. 2 years from now, it's like updated video, pros and cons, what's changed, what hasn't, right? And then it's just like the cycle's just going to keep continuing.
It's funny that you say that because we're in the process of doing that all right now. We're updating at every mill. Like we're doing that right now. Even though we put some of those out like 2 years ago, some of it's evergreen, some of it needs to be updated. And that's the beauty of being able to do that. But the videos on YouTube live forever, right? Videos on Instagram, there's a lifespan, but YouTube is a search engine. It's like the Google.
Okay, right.
The YouTube is like the Google. So I definitely would say if you can get your videos on YouTube, even if it's shorts that you're putting on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, if you can get it on YouTube, it's evergreen content.
Interesting. I think when you really track it, it sounds like Instagram is your better platform for that. When we talk about your new agent that you're advising, so we talked about, hey, we're going to do one from an open house or like a listing that you have. What are some of the other, I don't know what the right term would be, like short throw passes to like completion, right? Of like good video idea. This is it.
There's so many. You could do business owner videos. Like right now, we're starting to talk more about women-owned businesses in Stafford and Fredericksburg. We do charity. My team name is Give Back Team. We give back to the charity of our client's choice after closing, but we also do a lot within the community working with charities. So highlighting a charity in your area, highlighting a school. You could do so many different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be this house behind me is a 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot, beautiful home, right? It could be, hey, I'm grabbing, a cup of coffee in my favorite coffee shop in Fredericksburg, Virginia. This is what it looks like, or this is what it is, or check out the menu. This is the best dish. You could do reviews and things like that. So there's so many different things that you could do. And this is what I always say. What would you want to see? What do you want to know? Right? Turn the table on yourself and say, hey, I would be interested on knowing what are the events to do this weekend. You could do a video on that, right? We're coming up on a longer weekend. What's happening in Fredericksburg, Virginia this weekend? Hey, these are some of the cool things. Guess what? I'm actually going to be at the taco festival. I did a pickleball event. I'm going to be playing pickleball. Anyone want to join me? This is where I'm going to be. I'll buy the first drink, or I'll buy you the first taco, or whatever it is. You can do a video on that too. So there's so many things.
It's super smart. And I just love that it just doesn't go away. It's something that, one, you can repeat, two, it's going to be there. And it's such a helpful resource. But I really like the way you put it. What would you want to know? Looking at an area, you're moving somewhere. It's such a great idea. One question I was going to ask you, you mentioned coaching. Are you still actively involved in coaching now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have 3 coaches. I have 3.
So let's talk about the 3 then. That's 2 more than I normally hear. So go ahead.
So I've been in Tom Ferry coaching for a while, for years. And I started off kind of skeptical about coaching because I was like, I never went to like the big national sales meetings for the brands that I work. I'm with Coldwell Banker right now. I'd never gone to one of those meetings. I was Keller Williams before. I never went to one of those meetings, but I realized the value of them because I used to lead those meetings in pharmaceuticals. So at some point, treating it like a business as opposed to, I don't want to say a hobby, but it was more serious than that. But once I realized there's value and I don't know everything and I'm always learning, who should I learn from? And so for me, it was like, I want a real estate coach. So I turned to who I think is one of the best in the country. I turned to Tom Ferry, and I don't coach with Tom Ferry. I coach with a coach of Tom Ferry, but that ecosystem itself, like not just the coaching, but going to the meetings and learning from there and meeting other people opened another resource to me. Like now I know agents across not only the country, but internationally as a result of coaching with a great, phenomenal real estate coach. I coach with Tom Ferry. I've coached with him for a good number of years. I would highly recommend finding a great real estate coach. The second person I coach with is someone that probably I mentioned the show is Ryan Serhant. So I've coached with him. I started off when he first launched Sell It Like Serhant, and I was just in the big, pool of people that were paying him. And I was like, you know what? I really could learn a lot more from him. And the reason why I ended up coaching with him, and I was fortunate enough to coach actually with him. I've met with him and I've got on YouTube, you can see I've gone to New York City and sat down with him, but I wanted more of the marketing piece because I love the marketing side of things. And so he is a brand builder. So for me, Ryan Serhant, that's the piece of the puzzle that I wanted to learn from him. And I'm still in coaching. I've actually gotten into a bigger program with him. We call it SurFam. The third coach that I have is a business coach. He's amazing. And he's now currently actually the president of Real, which is another real estate company, not who I'm associated with, but he is the president of Real. And I've coached with him before he became the president, and it's Sharon Srivatsa. And so I coach with him, and I've coached with him for a couple of years, and that's on the business side of things. So I have a real estate mentor, I have a marketing mentor, brand building mentor, and then I have a business mentor. So I looked at where do I have holes that I want to learn more, and then I find the best person I can afford, and I can mention something about that too. But even if I couldn't afford them, that I want to work with and make it work. If you can't afford that mentor, whoever it is, offer to work for them for free. Offer to work for them because you're going to learn, they're going to win also, but you're going to win as well. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. I wouldn't say call any one of those three and ask that, but if there's someone local, like an agent that you want to learn from, they don't have a team that you can join, find a way to mentor with them, offer them something that they would be willing to work with you and teach you.
When did you start coaching? How long were you in before you were like, I'm going to give this a shot?
So I want to say I started with Tom Ferry, I think around 2012 or 13. And there's different levels of coaching. And so I was in the monthly coaching. You know, you kind of get addicted to the learning, right? That's what happened to me. I got addicted to the learning and the mentorship, and not only the mentorship from my coach, but the mentorship from other agents within the community. And so I wanted to dive deeper. And so that's when I, went into the next level of coaching. So you kind of get into it. Usually most people don't jump in with both feet on the most expensive, option.
Right.
Like test it and then make sure it's right for you. And I just will say this too, if it's a bigger coaching plan like Tom Ferry or they have multiple coaches, don't say the program doesn't work. It might not be the best fit for that coach. So find a different coach.
And
don't
that's
leave the
exactly
program.
a question I was going to ask you is if you have had circumstances where you fired, isn't maybe the best way to put it, but you're just like, I'm not getting what you're selling. It's sports teams. You can have a successful coach 2 years goes in the NBA finals and now they're being, let out the door because the team's no longer listening to you. You're not, what you're saying is not connecting. Have you had that experience for those agents that are listening that maybe have coaching and they're kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'm not getting what I should out of it?
So I've been very fortunate with the coaches that I've had, but I will say at some point the relationship needs to end, because the way that I look at it is if I become friends with the coach and I'm not getting the business piece out of it, right? Like I love talking to my coach, but at some point I'm going to need to move on and learn something different from someone else.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I'm going to leave the ecosystem. And I feel like this is almost an ad for Tom Ferry, and I don't have any
promo code, Ginger Walker.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything. But I will say this is my second or third coach, I think. And at some point I'll move on to another coach, but I would say don't give up on the system. You might just need to realize that you've learned everything that you could from this one particular person. And then what else, like I said before, what's the hole that you're looking to learn and fill? Yeah. And then find the coach that meets that need.
I think that's a great idea. And I'm thinking of my own coaching journey that I'm on right now is that, my coach, my biggest thing is the accountability piece. The idea of like, well, how many did you do Tuesday, Wednesday, et cetera? And that's really where I get the benefit is because I'm pretty solid on different ideas and the coach is like the hammer. I don't think she and I will ever become BFFs. Let me put it that way. Maybe she'll be my drill instructor one day down the road. That's more of what her role might be. But a really good point on the coaching. And I like the idea of you haven't left the ecosystem. This has an end date. And we've gotten to this point. You're my friend, but I can't listen to my friend, right? I'm not going to take my coach. So I love that. All right. When we come back, I want to talk about what you're doing to stay in front of past clients, because I know you do an outstanding job on it. So we're going to talk about kind of the whole database management, client appreciation events, all that. We'll be right back with Ginger Walker.
Tanner Mulvihill, NMLS number 276814.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. So, Ginger, we've closed the client. We've done an outstanding job. They found our video on YouTube or Facebook or, Instagram. What do we do now? How are we staying in front of them to make sure that they're referring friends and family?
So they are your family, right? It's not one and done. And that was something that I didn't realize at the very beginning of my career, but now you're part of our family. So you're a give back team. We're family now. Like we've gone through a major transaction, one of the biggest things of your life. Right now I have a client who literally got married the weekend we were writing the offer on his house. We're closing on it, I think, in a week and a half.
Wow.
So yeah, and he's moving. So they say, there's all these, major life events. And I think we haven't gotten the baby or anything like that.
To knock out 3 of them in a month. Exactly. But you have to think about that. They've shared one of the biggest life events with you, whether they're buying or selling with you. Right.
And so don't you think that because you've shared that experience that you owe the friendship, the piece of the puzzle to keep them in your world? I do. Now, not everybody is as warm and fuzzy as I am and wants to come to all the events and stuff. But once that happens, we love on our past clients because I'll tell you right now, if you're not, someone else is, and it's going to be me. That being said, if you do client appreciation events or, even handwritten notes, like after we close, a handwritten note, doesn't matter who on my team has closed the deal. a handwritten note goes from me saying, thank you so much for allowing us to help you. We'll put in like a gift card or something like that. We have a sheet where we're collecting birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, the names of your pets, your kids' birthdays, big life events that you like to celebrate that are important to you. And we watch Facebook. So if we see someone right now, it's graduation time, right? Mm-hmm. Someone's graduating, they get a gift or they get a card. If you can't afford to send a big gift, it doesn't cost you but a stamp and a little bit of time to write a happy graduation and send it to that family. We do things like as simple as that, but then we also do like the big client appreciation parties and events and things like that.
Awesome. What's your favorite party that you've done? Or maybe do you have a staple that goes on every year?
We're doing the pie events. This year we layered in pictures with Santa. And I will say that was a big hit. I wanted to do that before. So everyone on my team is a fur baby mom as well. So we have cats and dogs and someone had even chickens. So we actually had a Santa that would allow us to bring dogs. So at the end, we had pictures with our dogs. I have a Doberman. My Doberman is with Santa Claus. So, but how cool is that? Because that was something that they then posted on Facebook, tagged us, sent out to their families, like that kind of. So that's something that we're doing with consistency is the pie and Santa event. And now we're combining them. So you can pick up your pie for your Thanksgiving and you can get your picture already for the holiday with Santa Claus. And if you have a fur baby, you can bring them too. So that's one of them. And another one is one of our friends has a big property. And this year I wanted to do a bigger and bigger pumpkin patch. And we did a big pumpkin patch event and we had bouncy houses and, grills going and we had a hayride and it was on someone's property. So it wasn't even like we had to go and rent out this big elaborate place and it cost even more money, but we were able to do it at someone's property, which was really pretty cool. So that was actually a really fun one. I like doing that one.
Very nice. I'm chuckling thinking of the pictures with the pets and some of the photos that probably came back from that are probably pretty amusing, whether the dog's not paying attention or the dog's looking very shocked and surprised faced. That's pretty cool. I always love wrapping up the podcast with a good story. As you can imagine, 60 plus of interviewing top producers such as yourself, I've heard some amazing stories. I've heard scary stories, really scary for those of us that are scaredy cats, funny stories. So what are you going with today for your best real estate story for me?
I have to tell you, it's really hard to pick one, but I'll tell you about one that was recent. Well, one of them was a photo shoot and the guy left his teeth on the sink in the kitchen and we had to edit that out in the post-production of videos.
So we have the beautiful pictures of your lovely kitchen and sitting in the middle is some teeth.
A full set of teeth. Like
nice.
He took them out, rinsed them off, and we're all leaving. We're going to take the pictures and stuff. So the dude left the house without his teeth. I'm like, where did he go? He had no teeth. Right. That was one of the funnier ones. But I will tell you, I've had some crazy stories like War of the Roses stuff that's happened in the houses. Yeah. But one of the more, I guess the one that I would probably say that I don't really love so much because I don't like snakes was a house that was over 100 years old. It was an old farmhouse, really cool house, very, very unique. And the attic was one where, you didn't go through the ceiling. You actually walked up the stairs. And so I walked up the stairs and I was video touring and the client was like, I love it. I love it. And I'm like, okay, it does need a lot of work. The basement was really short ceilings and stuff like that. He's like, no, I want the charm. And I said, okay, cool. Let's get a home inspection. Well, the home inspector went up in the attic. This house had, I want to say probably at least 60 snake skins in it. 60. They were not only in the house, they were hanging from the rafters. And I'm thinking, what is the story that this house is going to tell? Right. So once they did the home inspection and they found like the snake skins and snakes, I thought the buyer definitely was going to back out. And he was even more intrigued by this house. He's like, nope, because it had sat vacant for a while. So he ended up buying this house. And afterwards, they had a snake wrangler come to remove all of the snakes because there was snakes still in the wall that were alive. Oh. So that is probably one of my more recent but you know what? It goes to show you, I say that there is a shoe for every foot. There is a house for every buyer. So they were so excited with the opportunity of making this really unique property theirs. And it didn't matter the snakes. They were willing to get the snakes out. They looked past the snakes and everything, but they looked at the charm of this house and like the unique door handles and, moldings and things like that. And they're in the process right now of completely renovating that house. So I call it the snake house, but it's really not. It's their house. And the ending is going to be pretty amazing. And I can't wait to see it. So that was one of my more
Yes, indeed. That is an outstanding story. And because I turned 47 in 20 some days here, I was thinking of Indiana Jones. And I'm sure you remember the scene as he's like, I hate snakes, or however he says it, right?
Yes.
Just like, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, oh my goodness. But Ginger, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was great to hear your story. I enjoy watching the videos. Everybody check them out on YouTube to get some ideas on the different content. So you brought so much for us today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Virginia is for Realtors podcast. If you're a realtor looking for a loan officer you can count on to follow up with the leads you send, keep you updated on the transaction every step of the way, and get you to the closing table on time, give me a call. I'd love the opportunity to sit down with you for coffee to learn more about your business and how we can make it even better. Until next time, this is Tanner Mulvihill on the Virginia is for Realtors podcast.